I guess we have to say that too.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
obviously,
it's a ridiculous time, and like everyone's been saying, again, you know what I mean? It's like here we go again, another mass shooting, and I think the most disturbing graphic to me was the scorecard. Like they showed, like this guy got 58, and then the guy in Orlando got 40 something, and so because it's like, okay, you just encouraged the next psycho to try to set the record. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't be. There has to be another way to say it without giving publicity to he killed more than anybody else.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, for everybody who's listening in the future, this is taking place. We're recording this on Tuesday. The massacre happened in Las Vegas on Sunday, so it's just a couple days ago. And we were just going over all the details of it. I'm reading it online here. He killed 59 people, injured 527, which is just fucking completely insane. I mean, 527 people shot. Is that right? Or is that like, does that count people trampled?
I think it includes people trampled and injured otherwise, but there were a hell of a lot of people shot. I mean, he opened up with automatic weapons into a crowd of thousands of people to where probably, you know, did any bullet hit the ground? Like there were so many people at this thing that every bullet probably hit somebody, you know,
probably.
Or more than one person, depending. I don't know the power of the ballistics of the weapon, but you know, it definitely, like bullets could have went through one guy into the next
100%,
person and so on.
I'm sure they did. 100%. This guy, first of all, there's you know, everybody's this becomes a big gun control argument, which it should be, right? But one thing that we got to really take into consideration is he had illegal guns. These guns were illegal, I think, for 25 years. So this isn't. I don't know how much of this could have been helped by making it more illegal.
Yeah, you know, that's always a debate. The first problem is what was going on yesterday when they say this is not the time to talk about guns.
Of course it is.
And yeah, of course, it's the exact time to talk about guns. And I'm not a gun guy in the sense that I'm not a gun owner, but I get it with guys who are into guns. I always compare it to my love of cars and bikes or, you know, anything mechanical or whatever. I understand it. But most of the people I talk to who love guns don't have a problem with like registration, certainly don't have a problem with education.
Right.
And what I call common sense gun ownership. And there are some guns that I get it, you want. There are some guns that, you know, and again, I'm not speaking with any expertise, but from the layman's point of view, it's like, why do you need this semi-automatic military-style weapon in you know, don't tell me you have it for hunting or anything else. Like, if there's a reason you want to collect it, just like if there's a reason you want to own a race car, right, and somebody says, why do you need a car that does 200 miles an hour? Well, you may have a reason you want that race car, but you don't use it on the street. You can't take it, you know, onto the streets. And I think that should be, that there should be some kind of rule with that kind of weapon. That if
but here's the thing: it doesn't matter if there's a rule. This guy, there were plenty of rules.
Yeah,
this guy violated all the rules. This
guy did. But I'm just talking about the general attitude towards sales. Just the idea that you can walk into a store and buy these weapons. It should somehow be more difficult to, you know. And again, this is my opinion, right? But I think it should be more difficult to buy a weapon of that type.
Yeah, well, these are all illegal weapons. This guy
shot
he
converted
people with
them
illegal...
to fully automatic, and fully automatic's illegal everywhere, right?
Here's what's fucked up about this guy. This guy didn't have a criminal record. He had no army training, no religious or political affiliations. No one has any idea what his motives were. He was wealthy. He's a big-time high roller, which is how he got this giant suite in Vegas. I mean, it is fucking bizarre. Did you see his brother get interviewed?
Yeah, and it's that's the thing about this. That's the thing about this kind of insanity, right? There is usually no outward, like how many people are like this in this country that we don't know about?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That have, and particularly if you're wealthy. If you're wealthy, it's so much easier to hide it, right? Because you may have a big house,
right? You
may have a compound, you may have a camp, a place you go camping in the woods that's actually stocked with 100 weapons or something like that. I mean, that the randomness of this, to me, that is the biggest horror. The worst thing about this to me is just the idea, like, you went to a fucking concert.
Right.
Like, that's all you did. You went to a concert in Vegas and you're never coming home. Your family's destroyed, everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that is the utter randomness of it that you can't control.
Well, that's what's terrifying about it. Which is really strange to me, the definition of terrorist. Nobody's calling this guy a terrorist. Like, what? Do you have to be, like, political or religious to be a terrorist? Like, how the fuck? How is this guy not a terrorist?
Yeah, this is definitely terror. This is definitely terror because, you know why it's terror? Because now, are you going to go to a big event in Vegas? Are you going to go to a big outdoor Vegas does these music festivals
that's in front of these towers,
right? And
where someone could do something like this.
And the pools, they have those giant EDM parties at the pools all summer that are literally surrounded by the tower of whatever hotel you're in. So so that's why it's terror, because now you have to be afraid to do that.
Well, not only that, like this now they're going to have some sort of screening when you go into hotels, which, by the way, why the fuck didn't they have them already? I've always thought this, like, the airports are so stringent. Like, you go through the airports, they check your dick. They literally will pat your dick if you hit a random, you know? Bing! I'm sorry, sir, we got to check your dick. You're random. And they literally put the back of their hand, which was really odd to me, that it's okay to touch your dick with the back of your hand. It's like the less sensitive.
They get to smooth your dick down.
Grab it.
They get to smooth it down.
Yeah. But it's so weird. Like, it's okay, sir, I'm just using the back of my hand to touch your dick. Like,
they might have had him grabbing, and some guy was just like, I'm not grabbing a hard dick.
Yeah.
Like, there's,
I doubt it was them.
They got a union.
It was the other guy. Like, I'm not getting my dick hard by some guy who's looking for a weapon. It's just it's weird that they can do that. But if you go through the airport, right? Like, airports, we've decided are places where terror exists, right? So you have like I have TSA pre,
me
and
too.
I have I'm a global entry guy,
and all of
and
that.
I have clear. Yeah. So Clear's the best.
Clear is the best where it works.
Yeah.
Where it works.
Where they have it, rather.
Where they have it.
Yeah, you just put your fingers down. Bam. It's got a picture of you, go right through. It takes 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
But that's just a place where we've decided you have terror, right? And now, are we going to decide that you have terror everywhere?
No, I don't think so. I mean, for one thing, I'm not buying into the hotel argument. Like, there's a bigger issue here than the hotels. And the issue is the weapons and what can we do about the proliferation.
Say it.
Proliferation of weapons. Proliferation of weapons. Yes, sorry about that.
It's early.
You start a word and you go, I'm too deep into this word. I got too deep into a word. Now there's no backing out. All the damn weapons. No, but that's the issue. The thing about hotels, though, and this being the United States, the privacy issue is huge, right? Your hotel room is basically your home away from home. When do you what are the privacy rules of checking what you bring into a hotel, what's in your hotel room? Remember the stoplight cameras, right?
Yes.
And they got sued and people got in trouble because they got that picture taken and the wrong person was in their car, right? That chick wasn't his wife.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, or this guy wasn't his husband. One guy sued because the picture was taken, the woman wasn't his wife. They send the ticket to your house, right?
Bam.
He got into exactly. And he won the suit in the sense that there's a level of privacy that's expected in your car.
Let me stop you there. Do you understand why it's illegal, though? Because it's a third party. It's not actually even the government.
Right.
They farmed it off.
Right.
You have some other company that's sending you a ticket and charging you money.
Right.
For that. And everybody was like, well, what do you guys are you're hiring people to do this?
Yeah, they're commissioning a place to write tickets. But what they had to do, they had to re-aim the cameras to only hit the license plate.
But that's not true, because I got one the other day.
You got, and you showed you?
Yeah, they sent me a picture of me smiling.
Well, it's not supposed to.
I got a little cocky, tried to go right on red, and it flashed me.
But the point being, in your hotel room, like, there's an expectation of privacy.
Right.
And where is that line drawn? The other big difference...
Well, it's going to have to be drawn in Vegas, because people get freaky in Vegas.
Yeah.
Right?
The other big difference, and I'll tell you a Vegas story about that is great, I heard, but the other big difference is when you're on an airplane, you're trapped in that airplane. When you're in a hotel, like, you can run, you know what I mean? You can run down the stair.
Can you really, though?
compared to being in an airplane.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a valid comparison, honestly. I mean, it's like you're still in a box. You're still in this big building.
You're in a confined space, but I think it's easier to escape. Now, the thing about Vegas, this guy told me, who was a security guy, he said the thing about the cameras is you see who's with who. And there was one particular guy he kept bringing transgender hookers to his room, and like they knew who he was. He was like a famous guy, and they were like, "Yeah, we could destroy this guy if we wanted." We got, because they got cameras everywhere in Vegas, right? Wow. They know who's coming upstairs to your room. They know what room they're going to.
So he's getting like super obvious transgender ones, like
like the giant ones,
football player dudes, size 18 feet, guys built like you, with dresses on.
So, so I had to give up that hobby. No, I'm kidding. That's the only thing from this podcast that's going to go out viral. Yeah. And we knew it.
Well, here's another thing that is a giant issue that I haven't heard discussed at all. Mental health. I mean, this is really what this is all about. This is not, I mean, this is a gun issue in the sense that he used guns. But then is it a truck issue in Nice, France, where that guy just drove into those people? I mean, is it, there's a ton of different ways to kill people. Yeah. And I'm sure we're going to see more of these fucked up ways in the future. Yep. But the real issue is a mental health issue. Now, this guy's dad was a psychopath. He was a serial bank robber. He spent 8 years on the FBI's most wanted list. Here's the question, right? Like, is that genetic? Like, does that transfer over? Like, how does that work?
It could be genetic, or it could be that psychological thing of I want to outdo my dad, right? This guy could be. I mean, no, this guy's a millionaire, right, and so on. Like, so he's obviously a high achiever, but he could have that hole. I'm not kidding. He could have that hole where he always wanted to do something bigger than his dad, or he wanted some approval, you know what I mean? Some weird kind of approval thing.
Yeah, I guess that's just speculation, right? I mean,
you could speculate, a bunch. Our mental health issue, just the health issue in this country, that's a show unto itself, right? We don't take care of ourselves. We don't take care of people. We don't provide for the mental health problem. You look downtown in any city in America, wandering the streets, homeless. You got schizophrenics and all kind of people, and God forbid they got weapons. Who know? Like you talk about the other ways. I'm sure there are attacks that we just don't hear about. Where some guy goes nuts with a knife or a broken bottle
happens
or
all the time.
Whatever else.
I mean, that's one of the big things that happens in places that have stricter gun control. And the argument would be that, hey, that's safer for the people. It's easier to handle. There's, more things that you can do. Some guy with a machine gun gunning down all these people. But again, gun control is not really going to help this. This guy was using illegal guns. I mean, the issue at this point is that there's so many guns out there. Like, even if you made guns illegal, are we going to sweep? Are we going to go house to house? And if we do sweep and go house to house, man, people are going to resist that. Because for every one of these psychopaths that winds up shooting people and gunning someone down, there's going to be genuine, normal people that want a gun to protect their family. Maybe they live in a sketchy neighborhood, and then all of a sudden the government comes along and says, well, now it's illegal for you to possess that gun. Well, then who has guns?
Well,
people who are already criminals.
See, I think the solution is in between, and I think this is another one where we get, this is a problem we have, and I can't even say when it started, when you have the two sides and it's either or. So it's either, no gun regulations or far too many gun regulations, and I think the solution's somewhere in between. In my opinion, it's always been like, why can't we treat them like cars? Like when you buy a car, you register the car, right? So the government knows, like Joe has this car, right? And then when you have to have insurance in case something goes wrong with the car and you hurt somebody, and then if you sell the car to me, you tell the government, hey, I just sold the car to Alonzo. I'm no longer liable for this car. Alonzo's liable for this car. Right. And I've always thought that would be the level of common sense gun registration.
Well, here's another one that goes along with that. With guns, you don't really have to know how to use them. This is really one of the really fucked up things about guns.
Unfortunately.
If you drive a car, you have to take tests. You have to pass. You have to understand the registration, the rules rather. I mean, you have to go, and a guy has to sit next to you. You have to go through a driver's test.
And I don't see why we can't do that with guns.
You should absolutely
where you have to go
guns.
to a range and show like the safety of using a gun and how to shoot it.
Yeah.
I don't see why we can't do that. And even if your family teaches you, right? They say like in a lot of places you grow up with guns, and as a kid your dad teaches you. Well, if your dad teaches you to drive, you still have to go to DMV and take the test. So it's like your dad, your mom, whoever, your uncle could teach you to shoot, but you still there should be some level of testing to get an idea. Because we have, just a couple of weeks ago, where you had a 4-year-old in Florida who was looking in their grandmother's purse for candy and shot themselves. And it's like that, Grandma, there's a safety issue with the gun. Like, you don't tell the kid to go get some candy when you know you have a gun.
I think there's a nutty number, like 21 people a year are killed in this country by armed toddlers.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
Find out what the number is. I think it's 21 people are shot to death by babies.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and you brought it up, like how, okay, if we didn't have guns, then they'd be killing, with knives or clubs or something. Like, just that idea that we have to have that discussion, like, well, what weapon are the mass killers going to use? That in itself is insane.
Right.
just the fact that we're like, yeah, we're going to have these mass killers. We got to have them working with different weapons. I don't know on the mental health. I'm not even going to pretend to have the expertise to talk about what it is, but it's an issue that we don't spend money on. It's an issue not covered by a lot of insurance. A lot of insurance doesn't cover any kind of mental health care.
Here's the thing. Even if it does cover, I mean, a giant percentage of the people that commit these giant mass shootings are either on psychoactive medication or are having withdrawals from psychoactive medication. Right. So even if your insurance covers it, even if you're medicated by a doctor, there's a dissociative quality apparently with a lot of these antidepressants and antipsychotic medications that people take, that with the right combination of biology, circumstances, genetics, whatever it is, people just can snap and they don't have an issue. I mean, what are the numbers of people that are on that stuff? A giant number.
Right.
What are the numbers of people that actually wind up and go and do shootings? Much, 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 much smaller number. But it's enough that if it happens once a year, like Orlando last year and then this year in Vegas, I mean, what the fuck? And again, we don't know why this guy did this. We have no idea if he was on anything. But what the fuck is it that we have to do to stop this stuff from happening?
Well, I'm sure there are scientists who study it and all, but I can't imagine you can predict it.
People are getting shot by toddlers on a weekly basis this year. Jesus Christ.
13
How many people?
Toddlers killed themselves, 18 more injured themselves, 10 injured other people, 2 killed other people. That was from 2015.
Last year was...
Toddlers have shot at least 23 people this year. Jesus fucking Christ.
2016, so only 5 months.
Oh my God.
Okay, so we cannot match that with an argument of toddler drivers having run over people.
No. Well, irresponsible gun owners.
That is, and again, that gets back to what you're saying, the education, like learn to own a gun safely.
Yeah.
To keep it somewhere where a toddler's not going to get to it.
Well, everything dangerous safely, everything.
And isn't it funny how, we do kid-proof a house? Mm-hmm. Like they have the plastic things that go into the electrical sockets and the poison and this and that. What about the gun? Throw it in the candy drawer.
Put it under the pillow. Kid's never going to look there. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of responsible gun owners.
And I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, I'm laughing at the ridiculous of it. And that is true. And I think the vast majority of gun owners are responsible. It is another group that's painted with the broad brush, right? That the few gun nuts, crazy, they paint every NRA member as being one of them.
Yeah.
And that isn't true. Like I say, I know people who like guns and they're not that.
Right.
But the people who are not that have to accept the fact that there is a population that is that. You know what I mean? You can't say that they don't exist because they do exist. So a big part of this, I think, like any other issue, Joe, we got to start telling each other the truth. You know what I mean?
About
like
what?
About these issues. Like we everyone has their side, right,
Their
or their
team.
tribe or their
Right.
team, and they refuse to believe any truth, any negative truth about their team or whatever. You know what I mean? Like to say, well, like we were saying, like gun owners. Okay, so there's responsible gun owners, and then there's a few I'll just use the term gun nuts. And the
Right.
responsible gun owners have to accept the fact that there are some gun nuts, right? With the police, the vast majority of police are good. But the good police have to say, yeah, there are some bad cops too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like within any tribe, we're comics. We know there are some bad comics. I
Yeah.
don't know if you know it, Joe, but I'm going to put it out there.
I heard of a few.
But until we do that, we can never have a real discussion, right? Because everybody just suddenly circles the wagons around their herd and like, no, not me.
Right.
You know, it's like,
Yeah.
no, we're not saying all of you are bad.
Right.
But let's admit within your group there is bad, so we can work on that. you
Yeah,
know?
I've seen some tweets from some NRA supporters the last day and a half that have just fucking stunned me. Where just shut the fuck up, man.
Right.
Just realize where the state of all this is right now, and shut the fuck up. And by the way, there's a video that's going around that somebody's put up about me talking about gun control. It is not a recent video. I don't know when it's from, but people are putting it up now about me destroying the gun control argument. It would be very insensitive for me to do that and to put that up right now, and I didn't. It had nothing to do with. I don't know when it was. I think it was from a year or so ago, But the idea that these people, these NRA supporters, would go and tweet these pro-gun messages
Right.
and get crazy with it now is exactly what you're saying. They're digging their heels in. They're supporting their team.
Yeah, and as many people have been saying, and it is a sad truth. Look, if we didn't wake up after Sandy Hook, then if when 21 kids were shot,
Yeah.
and people denied that it happened, oh, that didn't even happen,
That's
and
the
all
crazy
that.
one. I mean,
You-
they're doing
you know
that
what I mean?
now. People are calling this a false flag.
Right. So if that didn't wake us up,
Yeah.
then 58 people at a music concert. I hate to say it, but it's like it's not going to wake us up. I have a thing.
Well,
that
wait a minute. What does waking us up mean? I mean,
Wake us up to the point of take some action.
Well, what's the action? President Alonzo, what would you do?
Well, to start with, we have to have the conversation. We have to have the conversation about there, just like we just talked about. There is it is necessary to change our gun laws.
Yeah.
Our gun laws are too lax. That's the first thing. Then what we need to do, we need to come up with a system just like we have with cars or anything else dangerous, where you have to be trained to use it. You have to register whatever it is with the government, and you have to have liability insurance, and that information transfers. Like the big loophole is the gun shows, right? Where you go to the gun show and you could just sell a gun to another person. You can do
Is
that
that still the case?
Yeah, in a lot of states, that's still the case. You can do that with a car, right? I can sell you my car through Craigslist, but I'm still going to go put in that liability thing. Otherwise, I'm liable for what you do with the car. Like I
Right.
protect myself by reporting it, even though I sold it to you party to party.
Yeah.
So if I'm in charge, we're gonna add those things. We're gonna get a handle on these guns. We're gonna start tracking how many they are, where they are. We're gonna collect them. I think it was Australia and some other places that had those things where, look,
Australia.
if you own an illegal weapon, like a fully automatic weapon or whatever makes it illegal, you can turn it in. Maybe there's payment, or maybe it's just no questions asked. Just turn it in, and we'll destroy it.
Well, what happened in Australia is they had a mass shooting, and then they put their foot down, and they said no more.
Right. Australia just banned them altogether.
Well, they didn't
right?
totally
Or-
ban them. You can still use a rifle to hunt. But the way we have this sort of fast and loose, there's very few countries in the world that have this kind of fast and loose gun policy. I think.
Yeah, we still have the Wild West mentality.
Well,
and
we
it-
have a freedom mentality, which
Well-
Bill O'Reilly had a post today where he's talking about that this is the cost of freedom.
cost of freedom. Yeah,
Like you fucking
and
crazy.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Crazy
And-
old dickhead.
And I give you an example, Joe. Like I grew up in New York City. Like guns have been illegal in New York City for a long time. Now there are guns in New York City, but not as many as people think. Because what happens is when you make it illegal, then the average person, they don't go out of their way to get a gun. They're like,
Right.
no, I'm not going to have one. Yeah, a criminal is going to have guns. Yes, criminals are always going to have guns. But, you know, the thing about the good guy shooting the bad guy, it doesn't happen that often. And my personal belief on this is because in that moment, it takes a lot to shoot somebody.
It just happened the other day.
It
Just happened the other day.
I'm
There was
not
an
saying it
active
doesn't
shooter.
happen.
There was an active shooter somewhere that was taken out by a good guy gun owner. It can happen. You're right. It doesn't happen everywhere all the time, but it can happen.
And a lot of people get their guns stolen or taken away because in that moment, they can't use it.
Sure.
And the criminal, he ain't got nothing to lose. He's already a criminal. You know what I mean?
Well, he's
So-
also probably used to violence.
Yeah.
A lot of people are not used to violence. There's a lot of soft people out there that
Right.
they don't know what to do if the shit hits the fan in any way, shape, or form. They just don't know how to handle pressure.
Yeah, and it's, you know, that happens. And then they buy a gun to protect themselves, but they're in no way equipped to use it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's a lot of that. They're hoping that they can use it or to scare people off or something like that, but most likely, yeah, they're not going to be able to do it. But, you know, then there's people that say, well, that's them. I want the option because I will be able to figure it out, you know, because I'm not a pussy or I'm not a
Then
dummy.
there's a legal way to get one. Then, you know,
But-
you do what it takes to, and you register it. And again, most gun owners that I know, and I may be wrong because it's not like I'm deep in the gun culture, so I'm not speaking with that expertise. I'm just talking about of the people I know who have guns, who are into guns and shooting. I only have one friend who's like, doesn't want to register his guns or anything like that. Most of them I know, they're fine with having their gun
What is
registered.
the one friend's argument?
I couldn't even tell you. I honestly couldn't tell. I love him.
He's
but,
just crazy.
But when it comes to guns, he's got some of that paranoia. He's got some of that, the government's out to get me.
The government.
Paranoia. And then, you know, his thing with, we were talking about, and I know it's the wrong term, but it's the common term, assault type weapons, right? And he said, like, yeah, well, what if there's a home invasion? That's what they use. And I was like, ain't nobody invading your broke ass home. You ain't, you know,
Unless they
what
want
I
to get
mean?
your guns.
You know what I mean? You got, you're an average American with a 2-bedroom in the suburbs. Ain't nobody invading your shit.
Right.
You ain't got a safe. If you were selling crack, you might want to worry. You might have some cash around the house. Even
Right.
if you were a good marijuana distributor, there'd be a bunch of cash you're not allowed to put in the bank. But you, ain't nobody invading your house.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody wants to be John Wick.
Yeah. Yeah.